Hey, everybody, and welcome to Norm and Katie's Legal Fight Club. The rule of regular Fight Club is that what happens in Fight Club stays in Fight Club. Katie, that's not our rule.
Absolutely not. At Norm and Katie's Legal Fight Club, what we know, everything that we can share is what we're going to do with you because that's why we're here. Norm, what is the breaking news latest that we got to cover today?
Oh, my Lord, Katie. The Trump Epstein files are starting to see the light of day, and we're going to talk about them today. We're going to talk about what it means that one of the victims spent hours at Jeffrey Epstein's house with Donald Trump, according to one of these emails. That and much more has been revealed, and we're going to have a guest with us who's part of our legal team, because as always, you Legal Fight Club members and contrarians, the paid subscriptions that you provide help us to do our legal battles. We're going to talk about the legal war that we are going to wage to get even more information out there. So, Katie, why don't you start by breaking it down for people in case they were in a cave this Wednesday morning and didn't hear about the shocking revelation of some of the Trump Epstein files.
Yeah, so House Oversight served a congressionally served subpoena on the Epstein estate. And over time, the Epstein estate has been producing documents and materials that are relevant to that subpoena. And Norm, what was turned over yesterday was at least 23,000 pages of documents. Included within those 23,000 pages were at least 3 emails that are incredibly damning. These 3 emails come from 2011, 2015, and 2019. And Norm, within these emails, it alleges that pretty much what you just announced, Donald Trump spent hours at Jeffrey Epstein's home with one of the redacted names of a victim of Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. There's also another email between Michael Wolff
Katie,
and Jeffrey Epstein.
let me just interrupt. Friends, that's the 2011 email. And I want to highlight what Katie said. Epstein wrote to Ghislaine Maxwell, and by the way, this calls Ghislaine Maxwell's testimony into question as well. I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. In other words, that as of 2011 in the Epstein scandal, we had not heard of Donald Trump's role. One of the victims, and our hearts go out to the victims, we're going to hear in a minute from someone who helped them. One of the victims spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. And then the email goes on and on. So that's email number one. Now, Katie, what's email number two?
Yeah, and Norm, that email from 2011 is from April, and the importance level, as you know, you can indicate on an email, is high. So clearly, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell thought that there was something urgent and
Yeah.
important to be able to communicate about. Then we move on to 2015, and Norm, that's an email by and between Michael Wolff and Jeffrey Epstein. That one is really nuclear here. And the reason why is Michael Wolff indicates that CNN was planning to ask Donald Trump back in December of 2015. And as we know, factually, that was before the November 2016 presidential election. Wolff asked Jeffrey Epstein, well, what? Apparently CNN's going to ask Trump tonight about his relationship with you, as in Jeffrey Epstein, either on air or in a scrum. So Epstein says to Wolff, well, if we were able to craft an answer for Trump, what do you think it should be? And here's where it's really outrageous, Norm. Michael Wolff answers, I think you should let him hang himself, him being Donald Trump. It goes on to reflect that Michael Wolff sees that there could be valuable PR and political currency if Donald Trump basically says he has not been on an Epstein plane or to the Epstein house. And Michael Wolff also acknowledges that there could be a, quote, debt generated if Jeffrey Epstein, basically says things that would benefit Donald Trump. It's outrageous. It is
Yeah.
outrageous because It shows that there was something existing at the time, at least in December of 2015, that suggests that there could be something worthwhile that could be compromat concerning Donald Trump.
Indeed. If it really looks like he could win, Wolf writes Epstein, you could save him generating a debt. And here's why this is so important. It's why we're litigating it. We're going to hear about this from our next guest, because it suggests, as Katie says, that Epstein may have something on Donald Trump. And of course, the first email from 2011 established that Trump was, according to Epstein, alone with the victim. And just to close out, the third email is from Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell, who got that unmerited sweetheart deal from a serious prison where she was for her involvement with crimes of child rape, Katie. It's so shocking. And now she's in a country club prison because she made these exonerating statements about Trump. These emails and the others, we have others that were introduced. These emails suggest that she was not telling the truth, and they should have known she was not telling the truth. The third email is from 2019. And it is from Michael Wolff. It is to Michael Wolff from Jeffrey Epstein. And in it, Jeffrey Epstein says, begins some victim's name, and something having to do with Mar-a-Lago. So there's a connection between a victim and Mar-a-Lago. And we know that there were connections, victims were on premises at Mar-a-Lago. Something is redacted, and then it says, Trump said he asked me to resign. Never a member ever. Of course, he knew about the girls, as he asked Ghislaine to stop. So Donald Trump does not seem to be telling the truth either. Our next guest is going to explain the significance of these emails. He works with me and Katie at the Democracy Defenders Fund, and he was a part of the litigation team that delivered the largest financial result for these victims from the financial industry, those who were facilitating Jeffrey Epstein's crime. Please welcome our colleague, Josh Kolb. Josh, welcome to Norm and Katie's Fight Club.
It's a pleasure to be with you. It's great to be in the ring with both of you, my dear colleagues.
Well, we brought Josh over to Democracy Defenders Fund to help guide our work to reveal the Trump-Epstein files. We've done more than a dozen FOIA requests, and we've gone to court. We're litigating, and today we've written DOJ. We've said, hey, these materials have come out. We have reason to believe you have this and more information in the Trump-Epstein files. Josh, let's begin. Tell us a little bit about what is the significance of these emails to the Trump-Epstein files cover-up.
So there are a few aspects to the significance of this. The first, which you've been talking about, Norm and Katie, have been that we're finally seeing what it appears was being covered up over the summer. This is why it was so important for us to do the FOIAs that you mentioned, to go to court. There was...
What's a FOIA? Explain to the legal fight clubbers.
Very, very good question. A FOIA is a Freedom of Information Act request where we go to the government and ask them to release information that they have under the relevant laws. And if they don't cooperate, which they're not, we then have the right and have gone straight to federal court to force the government to release them through litigation. We're in court right now litigating those issues, trying to get any document that exists in the Epstein files that mentions Donald Trump, that mentions Mar-a-Lago. We've also FOIA'd any documents related to the cover-up of, or the alleged or potential cover-up of the Trump Epstein files here, documents that may have dealt with the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, her deputy, Todd Blanche, her principal associate deputy at the time, Emile Beauvais, both of whom, Beauvais and Blanche, were Trump's personal attorneys before he became president. Beauvais now on the bench on the Third Circuit after a Trump nomination and appointment there. And also to the top echelon at the FBI, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. So there are two aspects to this, as I was saying. There is what Trump knew about Epstein, what was going on at the time. We know they were friends. We have these emails that were released today where Epstein himself is saying Trump was around one of the victims for a significant amount of time. And then there is the possibility of a cover-up by the Department of Justice, led by Pam Bondi, led by Trump's personal attorneys now in office, and his law enforcement at FBI, which would be a scandal truly of epic proportions and something that should garner bipartisan support to try to uncover.
You know, Josh, we've known that House oversight served a subpoena on the Department of Justice that's being run by, I call her Pamela Joe, Donald Trump's personal lawyer. There's been drip, drip, drip of information coming from DOJ. It's really been the estate of Jeffrey Epstein that also got a congressional subpoena from House Oversight that's truly been producing the information, including the birthday book for Jeffrey Epstein when he turned 50. That was a part of the, litigation now with the Wall Street Journal and Donald Trump about the validity of that birthday note that was done by Donald Trump. Why is it so important for an entity or an organization like Democracy Defenders Fund, of which we are a part of? Why is it so important for that organization, DDF, to be able to also be seeking transparency and accountability for the Epstein files and to not be relying upon DOJ or even the estate of Jeffrey Epstein to be able to give that transparency to the American people?
It's such an important point, Katie. We've seen the stonewalling by the Department of Justice for months. The Trump administration came into office. The Trump and his acolytes, including very notably Kash Patel and many others, campaigned on releasing the Epstein files. As soon as Trump gets into office, they cover it up. They say there's nothing there. We've seen no progress there. Nothing has come out. Nothing has been released by the Trump DOJ of any significance, any new information. It was prodded, as you mentioned, by the House Oversight Investigation and their committee there through the Epstein estate. Another important point here is that Representative Grijalva is going to be sworn in, we think, today on Wednesday. Assuming everything stays the way it is, the discharge petition will pass in the House. That discharge petition is to force the House to vote for the DOJ to release the Epstein files for full transparency, something that not only Donald Trump and not only Pam Bondi have been fighting, but also Speaker Johnson has been fighting, saying there's no need for this, to let DOJ do what DOJ is going to do, which so far, as we've seen, has been nothing at all. The only reason we have these emails today are because of government subpoenas to the Epstein estate. And as someone who was part of the litigation team representing the survivors, all they want, if you speak to them, all they want is accountability, and more than anything now is just transparency. They want to know what the government knows. They want it out in the public. It's been enough. It's been decades for many of these survivors. Donald Trump campaigned on releasing these files. He's not releasing these files. As soon as the government forces emails and documents to be released, we see that there is some connection here between Trump and Epstein. The survivors and the American people deserve to know what the president knew and when he knew it about Jeffrey Epstein, at a minimum, what leadership in this country knew. We've seen bipartisan support from that. I know the survivors, everyone is very grateful for that level of bipartisan support in the House. The discharge petition goes through. It'll force a vote in the House shortly. That'll force that bill in the Senate. And hopefully that will pass as well. But up until then, it's up to organizations like Democracy Defenders Fund to force the Trump administration, to force DOJ to release files that they're in their possession, that the American people and the survivors have a right to know. They have a right to see this. They have a right to know what happened. So that's what we at DDF are fighting for.
And remember, DOJ has said that the release of Epstein materials is in the public interest. They built our case for us. Now, they said that when they were trying to get out the Ghislaine Maxwell grand jury transcript that they thought helped them. But it applies to all these other materials. And if these emails are out there coming from the estate, imagine what must be in the Trump Epstein files that the government has. And friends, when you support the Contrarian, when you take out your paid subscription, you make possible over 200 legal cases and matters like our FOIA requests and our Epstein litigation to get at the truth. We're not stopping. The shutdown is over, and so is the cover-up. The discharge petition is going to move in the House. We have written the Department of Justice. We've demanded that they give us the materials. We're going to fight for those in court. With your help, we're going to get them. This is a story of Donald Trump's corruption. We want to thank you, Josh, for being with us, for being a part of the Democracy Defenders family. Katie, as always, great to be on Legal Fight Club with you. Last word to you, my friend.
Just want to say thank you to everybody who's providing the support and fighting in the pro-democracy space. When you see that you're strategically working towards getting to the truth, of course they don't want the truth tellers to come forward, but that's the work that we're doing. And so thanks for joining us at Norm and Katie's Legal Fight Club. We'll see you at the next episode.